Können wir? Ja, wir machen nur kurz eine Ansage auf Englisch, ganz kurz. So, welcome very much here in our Zurich Krishna temple. We will just quickly announce the program for today. For those of you who are maybe not so familiar, we will have a class now from 4 to 5. Then at 5 o'clock there's a wonderful prasadam vegetarian feast arranged for you. 6:15 we will have a japa workshop where you can try out mantra meditation on beats for yourself. And then from 7 to 8 there is a temple ceremony. And from 8 to 9:30 some more kirtan like we just did now, singing of mantra together. So, ich glaube, das erklärt sich von selbst auch auf Deutsch. Okay. So. Okay, then it's a good. Yeah, Ruski. Потом. So later on we will have Russian translation. But for now we would like to welcome Damodar Prasad Prabhu. He will give our class today. I think most of you know Damodar Prasad Prabhu as he is the temple president of our temple. So he has been serving here for 7-8 years already. And he's a disciple of His Holiness Bhakti Swami. And now for 2 years, past 2 years basically, he has been leading the temple very nicely and very inspiringly. So we're very much looking forward to hear from him about renunciation in Bhakti-yoga. Hare Krishna. So, if you can all come a little closer, that will be helpful for our latecomers that they have some space. Just as close as you can is also inspiring for the speaker. Und braucht doch jemand noch eine Übersetzung aufs Deutsche? Wir haben so Geräte. Okay. Otherwise we have a Russian translation that will come soon.
Hare Krishna. Haribol. So, thank you all for coming. I'm so surprised how full the temple room is today. I guess it has something to do with the weather also. Not much alternative. But you could have also gone to the sauna. I mean, it's a good weather. And first of all, I would like to apologize because those of you who have the newsletter were probably expecting someone else. We announced Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu, who actually just moves to this temple from Croatia. And I thought it will be a good idea if everybody gets to know him. And he should give the Sunday feast class, but then somehow or other he's running a little late. He will come at 8 p.m. So I'm jumping in, and we will sing a little bit. You can play Mridanga. Anyone needs the song book for Jaya Radha Madhava? Yeah, Manu. Oh. Wie ist nochmal dein Name? Alexia. So, deine Mutter? Ja. So. Herzlich willkommen. So, that's a good point. Who is here for the first time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow. Okay. Welcome. So we're gonna sing a song. This song has been written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? Jai Radha Madhava, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who is, you can see him on the altar, he's one of our teachers, you know, he's not alive anymore, but he's the guru, or he's the father of the guru of Srila Prabhupada. He was very famous for writing many songs in which he expressed his devotion to Krishna. And this song basically describes the spiritual world. in our understanding, the spiritual world is not just some impersonal light, but it's actually full of variety. Like the material world is full of variety, so many different forms and colors and manifestations. So the spiritual world is even more alive. It's full of variety. So we're gonna sing this song. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribo Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribo Hare Krishna. So, actually the topic Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu was supposed to speak on has been given by me. And the topic is renunciation in Bhakti-yoga. And the reason why we wanted to talk about that is today we are observing Ekadashi. Anyone doesn't know what is Ekadashi, please raise your hand. Of course, those who come for the first time. Okay. Excuse me?
Maybe it would be good to explain.
It will be explained during the lecture. Yeah. But I can give you a very general understanding in the beginning. Ekadashi is the 11th day after full moon or new moon. Ekadashi means the 11th. And on this day, in our tradition, we observe a fast. We are fasting. It means we, probably when you see the feast afterwards, you will be wondering what kind of fast are they observing. We are fasting from grains mainly. That's everybody who is following this tradition is doing. But also you can fast completely, or you can just drink water, or you can just eat fruits, or just eat milk products, for example, drink milk. So there's different stages. And of course fasting means to take austerity and to renounce something. So we thought it would be good to speak about renunciation in Bhakti-yoga. What does it actually mean? And of course, whenever I have to prepare a Sunday feast class, I tend to think about the very general understanding, because we have newcomers. It will not make sense if I just start to explain about fasting and renunciation, but I want to first explain what is bhakti. Yeah, what are we doing here? And just the past few days I was listening to some recording of a seminar about Uddhava Gita. Anyone knows? Where can we find the Uddhava Gita? Srimad Bhagavatam, in which canto? 11th. So maybe some of you who are not so familiar have heard of the Bhagavad Gita, which is it's the foundational book of it gives the foundational philosophy of our practice. But the Bhagavad Gita is only one of the Gitas. There is many different kinds of Gitas. A Gita literally means a song, and it means somebody has spoken something. And the Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Krishna to Arjuna. And the Uddhava Gita has been spoken also by Krishna to Uddhava. And I want to give you the background of the Uddhava Gita, which is very interesting. So, Krishna, he is God. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as you will read if you read the books of Srila Prabhupada. And he's not only some very distant God, but he can be quite close, of course, to those who worship him. And he has been very close to this place 5,000 years ago. He actually appeared personally. God, he resides in the spiritual world, but he can come to this material world to fulfill his mission. And Krishna comes from time to time. Many of you have probably heard the word avatar. There was a famous movie, Avatar. And avatar means somebody who comes down. And that's actually the word where it comes from, is from the Vedic scriptures. Avatar means when God comes to this world. And so Krishna came 5,000 years ago. He appeared in Mathura, which is a place in India. And he lived for 125 years. At that time, of course, God, he doesn't die. He lives eternally, and he could also appear in this world and live eternally. But he decided to be visible here for 125 years. And just before he disappeared, somehow it's going down, huh? Just before he disappeared, meaning before he left the world and went back to the spiritual world, Uddhava Gita, he's a person who lived with Krishna in Dwaraka, the place where he had his kingdom. Dwaraka is still there today in the west of India. You can go to this city. However, it's not the Dwaraka which was there 5,000 years ago. 5,000 years ago there was a different Dwaraka, and just after Krishna left, the ocean swallowed Dwaraka. Meaning, you know, sometimes we hear even in our history there is a flood and then the land will be covered and then it's not visible anymore. And Uddhava, he was a very, very close associate, a very close friend of Krishna, and he understood Krishna decided he will leave now. And so he went to him and asked him, please, now that you are going, I don't want to stay here, because I am your devotee and I will miss you so much. I don't see any reason to stay back. I also want to go with you. And Krishna then told him, now you're gonna take, I give you an advice. When I leave, you take sannyas. Sannyas means you become a monk and you completely renounce the world. You give everything up and you just leave your home and you wander about in the whole world. You don't have any relationship, you detach yourself, and then you give up your body and go back. And Uddhava, he asked him many questions because he had doubts in his mind. He didn't know how he will actually achieve what Krishna told him, to completely leave all attachments behind. And so Uddhava, like in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is asking questions. Here Uddhava is asking questions. And I want to establish the basis. Why are we so convinced about bhakti? Why do we worship Krishna? These few verses give such a powerful understanding, which of course has to be a little bit explained, and that's what we try to do. So Uddhava asked, my dear Krishna, the learned sages who explain Vedic literature recommend various processes for perfecting one's life. Considering these varieties of viewpoint, my Lord, please tell me whether all these processes are equally important or whether one of them is supreme. So Uddhava is, of course we have to understand, 5,000 years ago in India, people were much more spiritual than nowadays. Almost everybody would believe that I'm a spirit soul, I'm eternal, there is karma, there is reincarnation. All these things were very much known. But even that basis was there, different kinds of processes, different kinds of traditions were practiced. And now Krishna, he says here in this verse, he answers, and I will only read a few of these verses which actually bring us to the point. Krishna is saying, some say that people will be happy by performing pious religious activities. Others say that happiness is attained through fame, sense gratification, truthfulness, self-control, peace, self-interest, political influence, opulence, renunciation, consumption, sacrifice, penance, charity, vows, regulated duties, or strict disciplinary regulation. Each process has its proponents. So, very simple understanding. Krishna explains, like to a small boy, that everybody is looking for happiness in this world. Do we agree on that? Or anyone has a... No, we all want to be happy. But there is different opinions how we become happy. And Krishna says some they think it's through fame. And we have many people in this world who try to become famous. Famous football player, famous actor, famous musician, whatever. So they think they aspire, no, whole life they dedicate to become famous. Or some, they say, no, it's through political influence, I have to become a powerful political leader, and then I will be happy. Charity, no. Some people say, no, it's not about me, it's about giving to others. And what does Krishna say here? All the persons I have just mentioned obtain temporary fruits from their material work. Indeed, the meager and miserable situations they achieve bring future unhappiness and are based on ignorance. Even while enjoying the fruits of their work, such persons are filled with lamentation. This is one of the first points which Krishna also makes in the Bhagavad Gita, that material life means it is temporary. It has a beginning and it has an end. And he speaks in one very famous verse, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam. No, sorry, there's another verse. Yehi sangsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavanta konteya aramante nabudaha. Something like this. What does it mean? He's saying that those who try to become happy by bringing the objects of the senses in contact with the senses, they are actually only inviting unhappiness. And why? Because that happiness has a beginning and it has an end. And the more you try to attain happiness through sense gratification, the more unhappy you will become. So, for example, somebody is very successful. He has a lot of money, he's very beautiful, he has a lot of friends, he has fame, he has a position. He's very happy. But we tend to forget that latest when he has to die, he has to leave everything. He cannot take anything with him. But because his happiness was based on that, he will experience extreme unhappiness in that moment. And that's what Krishna is explaining here. That all of these people, they are inviting unhappiness. And he's saying, even while enjoying the fruits of their work, such persons are filled with lamentation. Just recently somebody was speaking about this, how I think many of you work, so I hope I don't offend you. But usually when you work, except when you are a teacher, then you have more holiday. You have around 5 weeks holiday, which is not so much for many, unless you really love your work. And so the person was saying how he spoke to one other person who was sharing his realization, how, you know, he was working and then he took a holiday. I mean, he was working all the time to earn money in order to take vacation to spend his money on a nice trip. And he had a 2-week vacation, and then in the middle of the vacation, after 1 week, he already started to think about the next Monday in a week when he again has to start work. And that's what Krishna is saying. Even while enjoying the fruits of their work, such persons are filled with lamentation. Even while enjoying the holiday, the vacation, they're already, you know. And that's the situation usually because it has a beginning and an end. But then Krishna is saying, O learned Uddhava, Those who fix their consciousness on me, giving up all material desires, share with me a happiness that cannot possibly be experienced by those engaged in sense gratification. Krishna is saying that if a living entity fixes the thoughts, the mind on him, Krishna, then he will experience a sort of happiness which is far superior than what we can experience here. Why? Why is that so?
Because it's never ending.
It's never ending. Why is it never ending?
Because God is eternal.
God is eternal. Okay, it's never ending. Very important point, because we heard sense gratification, material happiness is not never ending. It has a beginning and an end. Some other thoughts. Why is it that when we connect to Krishna, be conscious of him, that we actually experience such a... What kind of happiness is it? Who is Krishna? Yes?
Purified love, unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Yes. His unconditional love. He's supplying everything to every living entity. All we get, like sometimes we tend to forget also the air we breathe, or the sunshine, which gives us heat and light, or the food. Where is it coming from? Where is it coming from?
I just wanted to add what you asked before, that Krishna is the source of all happiness, and everything which is connected with the source is automatically happy.
Yes, yes. So Sri Ram Prabhu is saying that Krishna is the source of all happiness, and so when we connect with that source of all happiness, then we automatically become happy. And why is he the source of all happiness?
This is his nature.
That's his nature. So maybe one simple point which is quite logical to understand. We experience happiness. No. Even in this material world we experience happiness by seeing something beautiful. The man sees a beautiful woman and he enjoys. The woman sees a handsome man and she enjoys, or we eat delicious food, or we hear nice music. So there is some things which give us happiness, or we see some, we experience a lot of wealth, or even if I attain fame, then I experience some kind of happiness. And everything which we actually experience in this world, it comes from somewhere. It has an origin, it has a source, and that source is Krishna, God. He expands himself and he manifests so many things. And so the things we try to enjoy in this world, in the material world, they are temporary, they come and they go. They are all fully present in Krishna himself, and Krishna is eternal, as Magdalena said. And so when we connect to him, we also are able to experience that. And a simple example can be given, like if you are the son of a rich father, then you automatically inherit the property from your father. No, you have some right to also get the property. So we are all sons and daughters of God. We also have a right to enjoy with him. So that's the simple understanding. So So Krishna was explaining that if one is able to fix the mind on him, then you actually have Krishna in your consciousness, you are connected with him. And Krishna is not some material object which, for example, if Manu, he's now here and I can enjoy his company, but when he walks out, I cannot enjoy his company anymore. Krishna is spiritual, meaning he can be everywhere at the same time. He's not limited, he's unlimited. He's all pervading. That means every one of us can access him all the time. Which is good to know. Otherwise we get scared. Do I also get some share of him? Or no, we all have the opportunity. And now Krishna is making, I took that as the last verse in this Uddhava Gita. Krishna is saying, my dear Uddhava, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under their control. I cannot be thus controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation. Okay, he explained before that in order to really become happy, you have to connect yourself with Krishna in consciousness. But Krishna is a person. It's not that just because I force him to do so, then I can be connected to him. No, like in this world, if I want to have a relationship with somebody, then it has to be mutual. Meaning it has to come from my side and it has to come from your side also. And if somebody has bhakti, love, and in this mood tries to please the Lord, then Krishna becomes very pleased and he actually accepts a relationship with that person. So that's the understanding of bhakti. Why we practice bhakti? We worship Krishna because he is the source of happiness and we are his eternal parts, and we connect with him in order to experience again eternal life full of happiness and full of knowledge, full of bliss. And this is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. There is a famous verse, Manmana Bhava Mat Bhakto, where Krishna says, you just fix your mind on me. That's all you have to do. That's the essence of bhakti, that you just think of him. And again, an example can be given like if you fall in love with somebody, then you constantly think of that person. And the same thing is also with God. If you just think of him, that is actually the true love. But then, that's a question that comes up. Okay, we hear all of this. We hear about Krishna. We even understand him in some way. And he tells us we should fix our mind on him. But then often those who practice realize it's not so easy. Who has that experience? Who is trying to be a bhakti yogi? Many, no. What does the mind do?
He always goes here and there. It's like
Where does he go?
to many places.
Which places? Hope it's not too personal.
If we have experienced something, then when it's important to us, we tend to like be there with the mind. And the mind is also very not steady, and then he jumps from one place to another, or from one situation to another person, or whatever.
So the mind has certain impressions and then it automatically goes there because it has some attachment. Yeah, Sri Ram Prabhu.
The one day Swata Swami gave a very good example.
Who?
Suhotra
Swami.
And he said that whenever we are doing material activities, which are like usually sinful activities, it's like throwing dead bodies into a lake, which represent our mind. And whenever we try to meditate, then we can artificially make the surface of the lake smooth. But because of these bodies are rotten, the rays are coming up. We don't want that they disturb the surface, and it's exactly what's happening with us, where we try to artificially calm down our mind.
Yes, yeah, the mind is compared to a river or lake, and so the water of the lake, and then, okay, we try to calm our mind and focus on Krishna, but because before we threw some dead bodies in, the dead bodies, they create some, because of rotting, they create some fermentation, and gas comes up, bubbles, and that's what is disturbing the stillness of the lake. I heard of that example, yeah. Yeah, so our mind, we know so for so many years in this lifetime, and according to the philosophy before so many lifetimes, we've been putting dead bodies in this lake. And even though we try to be Krishna conscious, we have a focused mind, somehow these things come up. Anyone wants to give an example where the mind, because it was very theoretical now, but I want to hear something practical. Like, where does the mind go?
To the past and to the future.
Okay, where? What?
For example, when I meditate and I think, oh no, I have to go for work. Or maybe I shouldn't forget the paper on the way, which I have to give.
Yeah, that's another thing. Not only desires come up, but even we have so many emotions also. Anxiety, fear, we are nervous about certain things. So all these things come up. Yeah, like sometimes we meditate, and we try to chant the holy name, and then the mind thinks about some dishwash or like mails to check. You also try to meditate? You do meditation? No.
I never reached that point.
So we hope we can come to the point to give some advice how we can come to that point. Yeah, sometimes the mind can go so far, like I'm meditating, and then all of a sudden I think about 10 years ago, what I was doing there. I was not a devotee. I'm not a devotee now, but I was not trying to be a devotee then, and going to the club, or I'm not going to mention any details. And then you're like, what are you doing? I'm supposed to meditate on Krishna, and Krishna is bringing happiness, but he's going somewhere else. So that is the problem we're facing. And Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, he's asking Krishna, like, my mind, you're telling me to meditate, but my mind is going everywhere. And he's making the comparison to the wind. The wind is also moving constantly, and how can you possibly control the wind? Cannot. It's so difficult. So how can I control the mind? And I want to read one verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna actually gives the answer to the question. Sorry, just... I forgot to save it in.
636.
636?
35.
35. Yeah, thank you. Krishna is saying, O mighty armed son of Kunti, Arjuna, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. And let's hear what Prabhupada says. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. So that's a good point. We are right. It is difficult, and even God himself, he accepts. But at the same time, he suggests that by practice and detachment, it is possible. What is that practice? In the present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in a sacred place, focusing the mind on the Supersoul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, etc. He's speaking about the Ashtanga yoga practice. Like the yoga we know is practiced today, the yoga practices in the yoga studio. There comes a lot of principles to follow in the traditional form, like you're not allowed to have a sexual relationship, you're actually not even allowed to stay with other people, you have to live alone completely and all these things. But Prabhupada is pointing out, in this time it's not possible. Then he continues, by the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind in spirit. Vairagya means detachment. No, the title of this lecture is Renunciation in Bhakti-yoga. Detachment, it's the same thing, renunciation, detachment. And Prabhupada, he was very expert, he could concisely explain what it means. It means detachment from matter, that's one side. And on the other side, engagement of the mind in spirit. So it's 2, it's not only 1, it's 2. And if you think about it carefully, one is negative and one is positive. No, one means material happiness, no, and one Krishna, yes. That's the simple explanation. Detachment means you say no to material happiness and you say yes to Krishna. And Prabhupada is explaining that what Krishna is saying, okay, your mind is very difficult to control, but it's possible if you practice and if you learn detachment. These 2 things. And Ekadashi, that's how we come to the point, Ekadashi, what we're observing today, is one of those days where we are supposed to practice. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared 500 years ago, who is an avatar of Krishna, he came to preach bhakti. And he came especially to preach bhakti to people who are not so qualified. And he established that Ekadashi should be followed by all the devotees. And he's known as very merciful, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padaite, that he's giving Krishna Prem freely, without any consideration. But at the same time, we hear that he's asking all the devotees to observe Ekadashi. So one could think it's a contradiction. Then on one hand it said he's so merciful, he gives everything, he gives the highest gift to everyone without consideration. And on the other hand, he's asking such a difficult thing, to fast on Ekadashi. But we understand that bhakti is a process, and he's very merciful in giving us the process. But the process we have to follow. And why is it that Ekadashi is so special? Like I explained in the beginning, Ekadashi means the 11th day after full moon or after new moon. So why exactly Ekadashi, and why fasting in the first place? What's the idea behind? Does anyone have a?
That you prove that you can control yourself, that you design the material fruit.
To prove yourself that you can.
Yourself, that you are able to control, to say no to the material, to concentrate more on the spiritual.
Yes, yeah. That it's like you are practicing, and at the same time you are proving to yourself. You're showing that it's possible. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. While I was preparing, I was looking up the word asceticism, askese, and that means literally it means to practice. So somebody is refraining from something, it's a practice. It's not fully natural yet, but you practice. You do it anyway. And yeah, that's a very good point. So we do it regularly, every 2 weeks, because we know ein steter Tropfen höhlt den Stein. English? A steady drop hollows the stone. You got it? I don't know if that exists in English. It means if a drop, even a small drop, if it...
Water finish creating a hole on the stone.
Yeah, just a small drop. But if it goes regularly, it creates a hole. So even though you think, oh, it's just a drop, it can be very powerful. So that's why we do it so regularly, all 2 weeks. And so we are proving to ourselves that we actually can live without this. But how is it possible to live without this? Material happiness. Let's take Manu this time.
We need something higher to give up
Yeah.
something lower.
Yeah. We have to... Actually, Ekadashi doesn't mean that I just don't eat grains, or I eat less, or I eat not at all. But it means I'm using my time more for practicing. And Prabhupada explains, by engaging in the 9 types of devotional service, especially hearing. We hear about Krishna. You know, Krishna is doing that, Krishna is he's like this. We just hear from the scriptures or from the devotees. And in this way, we develop a higher taste, what Manu was saying. That's the positive aspect Prabhupada was pointing out before, that detachment means, okay, I don't eat, I detach from food, but then also I engage my mind in spirit, in Krishna consciousness. And that's really the basic understanding I would like to give to all of you, because many of us, we cannot fast completely, especially if we work. Then many, they need something in the belly, otherwise they get angry. And so then no problem, you eat, but you do something for Krishna. And especially you hear, you read, or you listen some lecture. And by doing this, a steady drop, every 2 weeks, now you might be thinking, oh, like when you see the drop, let's say you see the first drop falling on a stone, and somebody tells you this will create a huge hole in time. You're gonna think, no, that's not possible. No, it will create, but you have to do it regularly, steadily, and then over time, with some patience, you start to see a whole, you start to see the result. And what does it mean for us? We actually will experience that actually I'm feeling something in my heart, and I can experience Krishna. He's real. I have a relationship with him, and he is so wonderful. He's so wonderful. He's the most wonderful person. And I want to be with him. I want to serve him. That's what will come. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And if that comes, like Krishna explained to Uddhava, that is the real happiness. Then it doesn't matter how much money we have, how beautiful we are, how famous we are, how many friends we have. It doesn't matter, because we have Krishna in our mind. And Krishna is the source of all of this. And I want to finish with a small story. How is this story relevant? This story is relevant to make that point that renunciation, austerity as such, is actually useless if it's not connected with love. And the story is very famous and nice. It's Narada Muni. Who knows Narada Muni? Yeah? Not personally? Narada Muni, Prabhupada, you know how we called him? The transcendental spaceman. Narada Muni, he's a person, he's a real person, and he's traveling in the universe. He can travel everywhere. He's not restricted by time and place. And he's a devotee, he's a servant of God, of Krishna, and he's traveling everywhere preaching. And once he actually was walking in a place, a forest area, and he could see an anthill, and somehow, because he's very pure, he could understand this is not a normal anthill, that's a little bit a strange anthill. And he was observing, and some person came out of that anthill, a person who was practicing meditation. And why was there an anthill around that person? Because he was meditating for a long time. No, he was meditating for so long that ants started to make an anthill around him. And when he saw Narada Muni, he knew Narada Muni, and he knew that Narada Muni has a very good connection with Krishna. So he said to Narada Muni, "Hey Narada Muni, can you do me a favor? Next time when you see Krishna, please ask him when I can go back to him." And Narada Muni said, "Yes, of course, I will ask him." So Narada Muni was traveling on, and he came to a cobbler. Cobbler? One who is making shoes. Very simple man. We're talking in a context of old India. So a cobbler usually would be a very simple man, not highly educated, just doing his job and like that. And so the cobbler was asking Narada Muni the same thing. "Please, Narada Muni, if you go to Krishna, ask him when I will be able to see him." So Narada Muni went to Krishna, and so he asked him, and Krishna told, "Okay, you tell the yogi that it will take him one more life. He has to take one more birth, then he can come. And you tell the cobbler that it will take him as many lives as there are leaves on a tamarind tree." Indians, they know what a tamarind tree looks like. How many leaves does it have?
You can't count.
You can't count. Yes. I also didn't know. I made Google search, and it's it has a lot of leaves. So Narada Muni went back and he came first to the yogi. And so the yogi was very curious to know, and he asked, so what did he say? And he told the yogi, he said, you need one more birth and then you can go back. And the yogi became really angry. One more birth? Is he not seeing what I'm doing here? I'm performing heavy austerity, renunciation, and he's telling me I have to come one more time. I don't understand. This must be a mistake. And anyway, what was he doing? And Narada Muni told him, while I was coming to Krishna, you don't believe it, but he was just pulling an elephant through the eye of a needle. You know, the eye of a needle is very small and the elephant is very big. And so the yogi was saying, how is it possible? An elephant through the eye of a needle is not possible. So Narada Muni was a little bit surprised and he left and he came to the cobbler. And so the cobbler was also curious to know what he said, and Narada Muni told him that he said, it will take you as many lives as there are leaves on the tamarind tree. And the cobbler was in ecstasy. He was so happy, you know, he said, oh my God, thank you so much, Narada Muni. He's thinking of me. And he will see me. He will allow me to see him. And Narada Muni, he was surprised by that reaction, and he told him, you know, why are you so happy? I mean, it takes so much time and it doesn't matter. What was he doing? What was he doing? And Narada Muni told him, he was pulling an elephant through the eye of a needle. And he said, oh my God, my Lord, he's so wonderful, he can do everything. And Narada understood there is a difference between the two. One was, externally it looked like he was much more spiritual. No, he was meditating, he even had an anthill around him. And the cobbler was just a simple worker, apparently engaged in material activities. But internally the heart was different. Yeah. And what was the deciding factor? The faith. That they actually had faith. Krishna exists and he's loving, he's merciful. So that I wanted to share in the end, that now you might be enthusiastic to perform austerity, but remember it's about developing affection and love and faith in Krishna, and not that we become proud and I'm not eating, you know, I'm so advanced. That is very important, because the tendency is we are conditioned living entities. We tend to develop that mentality that, for example, sometimes it happens, you know, now everybody will eat, and then the one who is fasting, he will make sure everybody understands he's fasting today. So that's not the idea. So thank you very much. I hope this was somehow understandable, what we are doing here and why we are fasting sometimes, even though it doesn't look like fasting, as you will see. And so I can just make the announcements. We're going to continue in here at 6:15. There will be a guided mantra meditation on prayer beads. Somebody will show you how this is done. And this is one practice you could do on Ekadashi. Maybe you're already doing, you can do more. If you're not doing it, you can learn. And this is a wonderful way how you can connect to Krishna. And then at 7 o'clock we have our evening ceremony. We worship the deities. And there we're going to do more kirtan, chanting, dancing. And then at 8 o'clock we have another kirtan for 1.5 hours till 9:30, which will be in sitting, more meditative, and you are all welcome to take part. Yes, thank you so much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari.
Yes,
Ja,